Hi, my name is Megan Calvert, and I'm an instructional designer in the Office of E-Learning, Innovation, and Teaching Excellence at Montgomery College. In this first video of our video series on the 7 principles of trauma-informed teaching and learning, we'll be discussing the crucial foundational principle of safety. Neuroscience tells us that for all students, a sense of safety is a prerequisite for the brain to be open to learning. This is especially true for those affected by trauma. But what do we mean by safety? It's important to note that a safe classroom environment is not only free of physical harm, but also feels psychologically safe. It is respectful and accepting of all students. It encourages students to take risks and learn from mistakes. Let's take a look at 9 quick tips for instructors to increase safety in their learning environments. Tip number 1. Build relationships first. Spending a little time letting students get to know you and each other at the beginning of your semester and throughout can have big payoffs in terms of helping students to relax and feel safe learning. Icebreakers and small talk also give you a chance to learn about potential safety concerns for your students. And stronger relationships increase the likelihood that students will talk to you if a safety issue does arise. Tip number 2. Set community guidelines. Particularly if your class is going to be discussing personal or controversial topics, it can be a good idea to set some boundaries on how students approach each other. For example, you may want to emphasize respect and openness to learning about different perspectives, ask students to keep personal information shared by others private, or describe how discriminatory comments will be handled by you as an instructor. It's also a great idea to invite students to contribute to these guidelines. Tip number 3, make disclosure safe. Students should never be required to share traumatic experiences with you or their classmates. However, if students do choose to disclose a traumatic experience, resist re-traumatization. That is, do not make them feel ashamed or guilty for their experiences or for their decision to share. Keep anything they share confidential and refer students to resources as needed, such as the Student Health and Wellness Center. If a student shares details about a traumatic experience in a group setting, it may be appropriate in some situations to gently invite the student to take a break or do some other form of self-care to avoid re-traumatizing other students. Plus, keep in mind that being trauma-informed is not the same as providing trauma-specific treatment. Therapy is best left to mental health professionals. Tip number 4, adopt an authoritative teaching style. Research indicates that students have the greatest success when teachers adopt an authoritative teaching style. Unlike the authoritarian teaching style, which is rigidly punitive and cold toward students, and unlike the permissive or uninvolved styles, which are undemanding of students, an authoritative teaching style combines high standards with a warm teacher-student relationship. Without compromising learning quality, authoritative instructors care about their students, are open to their input, and communicate reasons for their decisions. Tip number 5, provide seating options. Provide options for different bodies and abilities, and whenever possible, allow students to choose where to sit. You can certainly ask students to move into small groups or pairs, but if a student seems anxious or resistant, don't insist. For example, a student in a study at the University of Rochester who had experienced assault described how important it was for her to sit with her back to the wall in order to feel a sense of safety. Tip number 6, consider safety in virtual settings too. For some students, particularly those who have had to flee a traumatic situation, having their name and face broadcasted or recorded can be particularly threatening. Allow students to change their screen names, add a virtual background, or turn off their cameras if needed. Tip number 7, design assessments with safety in mind. Grading students on only a small number of high-stakes assignments can increase a sense of threat. Consider how you might get and give feedback on how students are doing with more low or no-stakes quizzes, exit tickets, or discussion board posts, rather than having only a few large exams. If you assign a large project or paper, support students through the process by providing check-in points and opportunities for feedback along the way. Tip number 8, be sensitive with sensitive content. Consider how certain content, including images, videos, readings, and topics, may be triggering for certain students. If a questionable material isn't necessary for your learning goals, you may consider changing it out with another. If you do decide to keep it, warn students in advance and give them the space to choose whether or not to be physically or mentally present for that particular segment of the class. Lastly, tip number 9. When in doubt, use the platinum rule. Do unto others as they would wish to have done unto them. While it is important for you as an instructor to feel safe, what makes you feel safe might not be enough to make all people feel safe. Get to know your students and consider the different experiences of those with various racial, gender, religious, ethnic, and ability backgrounds. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to reach out to megan.calvert@montgomerycollege.edu with any questions, and be sure to check out our other videos in the series.